All right, today we're diving into something that sounds, well, completely backward, failing to succeed. How do you get things right? By getting them wrong first? It sounds like a total paradox, right? But what you're going to see is that the most innovative teams out there, they don't just tolerate failure. They actually use it as a strategy. Okay, let's get into it. And this quote from Robert F. Kennedy, man, it just hits the nail on the head. Only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly. We're all taught to think of success and failure as, two totally separate things, like one's good, one's bad, end of story. But that way of thinking, it's just wrong. So what if we've been looking at it all wrong? What if failure isn't the opposite of success at all, but actually a crucial step on the way to success? Yeah, that's the big idea we're going to unpack right now. Okay, first things first. We have to talk about the myth of perfection. You know the one I'm talking about. This idea that if you're just smart enough, if you plan enough, you can come up with a perfect design on day one, right out of the gate. I mean, think about it. We're trained from day one to have the best, most thought-out plan. But here's the thing. When you're tackling a problem that's never been solved before, a truly new problem, all that theory can only take you so far. Because the real world, well, it has a funny way of punching even the most brilliant plans right in the mouth. And to really see what I mean, let's jump in a time machine. We're going back to the 1960s for a fantastic story about, well, a story about failure leading to a huge success. So back in the 60s, the company Unilever had this big problem. They were trying to make a new kind of washing powder, and the whole process depended on this one little part, a nozzle. But the nozzle kept clogging up constantly, and every time it clogged, the entire production line would grind to a halt. We're talking big money losses here. Okay, so how did they try to fix it? This is where it gets really interesting. Their first move was to call in the experts, right? Mathematicians, fluid dynamics guys, the smartest people in the room. They analyzed everything, ran all the numbers, and designed what should have been the perfect nozzle. And it was a total flop. It didn't work. So out of desperation, they tried something totally different. They got a team of biologists to make 10 copies of the nozzle, but each one with a little random change. They tested them all, found one that worked just a tiny bit better, and then they made 10 copies of that one, again, with more random tweaks. And they just kept doing that over and over and over again. Can you imagine? They went through 449 different versions, 449 failures. Every single one was basically a dead end, a design that just wasn't the answer. But then, on try number 450, they nailed it, a breakthrough. They found a nozzle design that worked perfectly. And here's the wild part. The final design was so weird, so completely counterintuitive, that there's no way any expert could have dreamed it up from theory alone. It was a solution that could only be discovered through this messy process of trying, failing, and learning. Okay, I know what you're thinking. That's a cool story from some old factory, but what does that have to do with today? Well, it turns out this exact same principle is being used right now to build some of the most cutting-edge tech imaginable, both on Earth and way, way above it. Let's talk about NASA, specifically a team working on what's called the Modular Instrumentation System. These guys are building super compact electronics that get strapped to rockets for experiments in space. I mean, the environment is brutal, and the specs are beyond strict. There's zero room for error. And this right here shows you exactly how they do it. On the left, you've got one of their early, much simpler designs, and on the right, a much more complex, later version. Now, they didn't just jump from the first one to the second. No way. That design evolved. It went through endless cycles of design, test, find a flaw, refine, and repeat. It's like the design is spiraling in, getting closer and closer to that perfect, flight-ready solution with every single loop. And check out this quote from one of their own R&D papers. It says everything. No circuit board design flaw survives contact with testing and verification. Think about that. You can run all the computer simulations you want, but the real, sneaky problems, they only show up when you actually build the thing and test it for real. Reality is the ultimate judge. So, we've seen a couple of amazing examples of why this works. We get it. But how do you actually do it? Well, there's a name for this whole approach. It's called the Fail Fast Playbook. And at the heart of this playbook is a concept you've probably heard of, the MVP, or minimum viable product. Now, a lot of people get this wrong. An MVP is not just a crappy first version of your final product. Not at all. Its sole purpose is to be the quickest, simplest, cheapest experiment you can possibly build to test one single critical assumption. You're not trying to make a sale, you're trying to learn something fast. So, how does it work? It's basically a 4-step loop. Step 1, figure out your biggest, most dangerous assumption. I mean, the one thing that if you're wrong about it, the whole project just dies, the linchpin. Step 2, build that super simple MVP to test only that one thing. Step 3, be agile. Yeah, have a plan, but be totally ready to toss it out the window when the results come in. And number 4, and this one's tough, know when to fold. Don't fall for that sunk cost trap. If the data tells you you're wrong, listen to it, move on. But here's a super important catch. This whole approach, it's for novel problems. It's a tool for exploring the unknown. If you're just, say, building a standard bridge, something that's been done a million times, you don't need to fail fast. You just follow the blueprint. This is for when there is no blueprint. This is for innovation. And what's really exciting is that this whole idea is getting supercharged right now. Modern tech is letting us fail faster, cheaper, and way, way smarter than was ever possible before. Just look at the difference here. On the left, you have the old way of doing things, like that Unilever nozzle story. Every single test means building an expensive physical thing. It's slow, it costs a lot of money. But now look at the right. That's virtual prototyping. Engineers can now create and test thousands of different versions inside a computer, all before a single screw is ever turned in the real world. It just shrinks the time and the cost of each learning loop down to almost nothing. And that really brings us to the core of this whole thing. The goal isn't to fail. Nobody wants to fail. The goal is to get data. Every one of those so-called failures, whether it's a real nozzle or a digital model, is really just an information-generating machine. It's telling you what doesn't work, which is honestly the fastest way to figure out what will. So, I want to leave you with this one last thought. Think about your own work, your own projects. What's the one thing you're kind of scared to try because, it might fail? Seriously, think about it. Because there's a really good chance that's exactly where your next big breakthrough is hiding.